All right. Well, technical difficulties, I guess.
Jump
um,
right in. Why not?
yeah, exactly. Welcome to Seahawk Talk and Ethos Seahawks. I'm Joe Stevens with Seahawk Talk, and this is Candace with Ethos Seahawks. How are you doing?
I am great, Joe. It's been a minute. Glad to have you. Glad to be joining with you on the show. Super excited to actually talk some football. So, man, let's
Yeah,
just
it's a lot. You know what? I enjoy talking about football after a preseason game more than I do after the draft because at least we get to see something
yeah.
rather than watch college basically highlights for what 4 months, basically.
Yep. There's just such a long period between the draft and when you actually get going with preseason. So it's been long awaited for sure, especially under the new regime and like the anticipation and not knowing what to expect. It's been the anticipation has been palpable for me.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, too. Not knowing what it was going to look like, and then kind of just seeing. Obviously, we haven't seen really like what they're going to pull out during the game. We kind of seen their base defense, and we seen they ran like one jet sweep on offense to Eskridge in the third or fourth quarter. We're going to see a lot more, players moving around pre-snap on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
So, but one thing I guess we'll kind of start here. That defense, what I like is it not just their run fits. I thought that was great. Other than I think Tyrese Knight had one where he kind of missed a gap, and then Mafe missed another one because I think he didn't trust Tyrese Knight filling the gap, and then the guy broke out for about 15 yards. But other than that, it seemed like the run fits were good, but the overall intensity in which they played with, especially the first half, didn't seem like just a preseason game. And I don't know if that's just me, but it seemed like they turned the volume up a lot.
No, for sure. Like the you can feel I just what I love most about this game uh is the tone. Like
Mhm.
yes, they took it seriously. Yes, it was preseason, but you can just tell almost that it's the tip of the iceberg. Like even with the level of intensity that they're playing with, even with some of the really exciting things that I think we saw on defense, it still
Mhm.
feels like it's just the beginning to me. And like you said, they were in their base a lot of the times, and there's still so many more layers, not just to the scheme, but also to what I think he's trying, what Mike McDonald is trying to convey as a culture. He seems to have such a clear vision culturally for what he wants his team to be. And coming off of Pete Carroll, I think that's super important. So I think that resonates with me most.
Yeah, and I think too, especially like culture wise, I think they're both trying to accomplish the same thing, which is get the most out of their players. They do it in two completely different ways, but they both wanted to be the most physical team on the field. Now, Pete didn't do that for the last 4 years while he was here, maybe 5 or 6 even. But let's see. So far, the early returns. Obviously, it's one preseason game,
Yep.
but that's all we have to judge them off of.
Yep.
So let's not overreact, but let's not just say, "Oh, it's a preseason. Who cares?" Right?
Yep.
Like we finally have something that we've seen with our own eyes, and I think what we saw, I like, especially from the defense. So
What's ironic is, even though, like you said, it's completely different approaches, to me, it felt like prime Pete Carroll defense. You know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
well, and even just like not even prime Pete Carroll, but like the first couple of years
Yeah.
when players are like, shit, players are getting cut left and right. I got to show out, and I think that's what it seemed like. One play that really kind of stood out, and it wasn't. It was when the stars left already. When Kobe Bryant picked that ball off, I think the last couple of years, I don't know if they make that much of an effort off a tip pass in preseason
Uh-huh.
to go for it like that, but he did. And he almost did it another time. So,
They swarmed the ball. That's one thing that you notice. I think it's important to pay attention to trends when you're looking
mhm.
at the preseason because those things are more likely to translate over. And yeah, it's just one preseason game, but uh, the swarming to the ball, the speed with which they played with, the instinctual nature, I think, that they were able to play with. I think Mike McDonald summed it up pretty well in his press conference. Like it seemed foundational. It seemed like this is a great starting base to work from, and they're going to add a whole lot of more wrinkles in there, which is exciting. But man, it's nice to see some effort. I mean, coming off that Steelers game last season when you just saw dudes making business decisions, man, they just weren't tackling. I think there were only 2 missed tackles in this game against the Chargers. From what I saw on PFF, there were 2 missed tackles recorded in that entire game. Not many penalties. Just football.
I couldn't tell you where the missed tackles were, to be honest with you. I didn't fight one out. Do you have any gripes? Any gripes before we get to the positive, I guess? Because
any gripes?
Offense or defense?
Line. Yeah. Offensive line is I loathe watching Stone Forsythe play football. Just in general. Like, it's just a principle of mine that I've developed over the past 6 months or so. Like, watching him be on the field is like almost an allergic reaction at this point.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed. Same thing. I was gonna go with the offensive line. It wasn't Forsythe as much. It was McClendon Curtis, because you heard good things about him coming out of camp, and like I just couldn't keep my eye off 66. Every time they dropped back to pass, just getting beat. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought this guy was supposed to be decent.
Okay. I'll say to McClendon Curtis's defense, he was really good, I think, at guard. They moved him to right tackle. He's not a tackle in this league, and I wish they would just move him from that. Because I think if you saw him play at right guard, from everything, all the reports at camp were that he was pretty solid. So I think they need to put him back there. Nobody's talked about McClendon Curtis since they moved him at tackle. I think that's for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad to watch. It wasn't against their starters either. I was like, wow, this guy's not what everybody's been saying. But yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't even think about the fact that he was playing tackle. Sam Howell, it wasn't. I'm fine with him as a backup. He didn't do anything to make me jump on the Drew Lock bandwagon of last year of everybody saying bench Gino, So he just needs to be more consistent with his throws, I think.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be a huge Sam Howell fan.
I don't think
I'm not big after years of Russ. I'm not big on the improv guy, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not big on the guy who's going to be best when he's running around in space, just because I think we had enough issues with the offensive line. I think we had enough issues with some of the drawbacks of that. I think sometimes he gets out of the pocket simply because he can't see. He's shorter than you think on that field, particularly. I think he plays shorter than he actually might be. I think he's 6'1" or something like that, but he doesn't play like that. And so I'm just never going to be a fan of that type of quarterbacking. I'm much going to be, at least for the next, give me some 5 years or something, of play within the structure of the offense, let the offensive lineman know what you're doing, get some on time. And to his credit, I think he did a much improved job on getting the ball out on time, on making good decisions. I gotta give the guy props for that. But just knowing the nature of who he is at his core. While I appreciate his growth in that area, and I do think I'm fine with him as a backup, I don't think I want him to be the future quarterback the way some people really were hyping him or thinking that he might be.
I never really thought that in general. I thought if somebody did the equation of what they traded for him and it equated to a 6th round pick with how the pick swaps went, I don't think, maybe they thought, it's a shot in the dark. Maybe he shows something. I thought PJ Walker looked decent. Same thing. I'm not sold on him, but if he's on the practice squad or if we keep 3 quarterbacks, he seems to be fine. He had a couple fun 3rd downs, 3rd and longs at the very end of the game. I don't know if you remember that. That was kind of cool to watch, but that's against the 3rd and 4th string defense of the Chargers.
Pretty much. I mean, he's an XFL legend, so I expect him to kind of look interesting at that time of the game. I did hear, one thing I noted was that the Chargers, I had to listen to the Chargers broadcast, and the Chargers were like, he looks like a pretty good number 2. So I don't know, maybe the Chargers will give a phone call. It'd be cool if they can get an asset for him like they were able to do with Nick Harris, because I do think he's a really solid number 3. practice squad guy. He's got a lot of startup experience. I think he can win you games if the situation is right.
I mean, he didn't look terrible last year against the Seahawks in week.
No one
I
did.
don't know whenever they played us at home.
No one looked terrible against the Seahawks. Not a single quarterback.
No, I know, but it's still an NFL team. I'd say Hurts didn't look great against the Seahawks last year, which is crazy, but that was towards the end of the year.
That's true. That's a fair point. I'll give you that one. But yeah, I agree with you. So I like where the quarterback room is overall. I think you got enough upside. I think you got enough experience. I think you got pretty much everything you could get in terms of what you're looking for your backup. Your backup is a backup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's supposed to go in there and not lose you a game. You know, that's kind of how I look at it. If Howell can keep the interceptions down, keep the turnovers down, he can go over there, not make every pass, but, you know, make throws he's kind of supposed to. And that's if we need him to come in, obviously. You know, we don't want him to ever come in. He's like the punter, right? We don't want to see Michael Dixon, but he's there. So, yeah, how about quarterbacks, running backs? I really liked McIntosh. I mean, I didn't think much of him coming into the game, you know, just because we didn't really see him at all last year. I don't even know if he played a preseason game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You know, he got hurt in the mock game last season at Lumen Field before they could even get to the preseason.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we haven't seen him on the field since then. And I thought he had a lot of wiggle to him, which I really liked. I don't know. Anything else you noticed from the running back room? Because he was basically the lead guy.
I mean, Ryan Grupp's thing is that he's not good in pass pro, and he did sort of whiff on a couple opportunities there. So I'm not going to pretend like that's still not an issue. But I think he gave you more upside as a third down running back. I think his ceiling is higher. I think he's a little bit more versatile in the sense of I think he's more versatile, like in actually making plays. I guess that's what I think. I think I would think of Kenny McIntosh as a poor man's Kenneth Walker, for lack of a better comparison. While I think George Holani is more like a poor man's Zach Charbonnet, right? Where he's jack of all trades, can do everything pretty well, but nothing really great. Whereas I think McIntosh has some great upside, but his consistency maybe from down to down needs improvement. I think they sort of have the same strengths and weaknesses in their games, which I think makes for interesting dynamics considering I think they probably need to keep the four guys. You'd love to have
I think they're going to keep
type of each, right?
I think they're going to keep four. I don't after him, who was after Holani? I don't remember.
Let's see.
Kobe Lewis.
Yeah, Kobe Lewis, Kareem Robinson. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I think they keep four guys. It wouldn't shock me at all if they kept four guys. And I think those four guys are your best options, just from what I've seen.
I just like the concept of having play. They seem like they ran plays for each of them. Like it seemed like they gave McIntosh the Kenny Walker plays, and you gave Charbonnet, you gave Holani the Charbonnet plays. I like that, man. You can still run your offense even if you're injured.
That cutback by Holani though kind of reminded me a little of K9 when he ran for the touchdown.
It was a nice cutback. It was.
Anyways, let's just move our way through the offense because the defense is what I'm really excited to talk about. Everybody,
I thought your wide receivers were exciting. I thought, I mean, to be playing your third, fourth, fifth guys, I don't think you could be at a better place. I think they have probably one of the deepest rosters. They don't have the top end talent that people would say. I think they have they don't have the top end production, I'll say, because I think DK can be that top end, top five guy. I really do.
At least, I mean, physically,
yeah,
that's what kills me. And I think you're going to get that. That he went on. Somebody went on KJR. I think it was McIntosh actually, and they go, "I know you're not supposed to say a lot, but how about DK's role this year?" He goes, "Don't be surprised if you see DK lining up in the backfield, taking handoffs every now and then." which is awesome.
They saw that in the mock game, or I mean, it was not truly a game, but there were some snaps where they saw like DK was all over the field.
And that's what he needs to be. Get him the ball. You know, he's a freak. Lockett's consistent, but he's getting up there in age. I think JSN might take over Lockett this year, or at least pass. I think Lockett might pass the torch a little bit. Bobo is what Bobo is, and then go ahead with the rest.
I like Laviska Shenault though. I like the playmaking aspect that he can bring. I like his experience. I think he's, like I said, I think he's about as good of a fourth or fifth guy that you could possibly have on a roster. And the fact that D. Eskert is fighting for his football life. I mean, the fact that he can't even really secure a sixth spot on this team, I think speaks to the improvement of the team. So that's really exciting. I agree with you in the sense that I can see the decline of Tyler Lockett. I sort of held out hope that last year was a one-off, but based on things I hear in camp, you really don't hear a ton about Tyler Lockett. You hear more about JSN. Yeah, so I think he sort of takes over, which is cool.
Well, and neither of them had bad seasons whatsoever last year. I think Lockett had 800 or 900 yards. He didn't hit 1,000, but I mean, it's not like he was absolutely terrible. It's not like he had
no, he's not.
In the season.
No, I don't think he's fallen off a cliff or anything. I just don't think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a true 3. You know what I mean? Like and you can't have a better 3, granted, than Tyler Lockett. But yeah, I think we're nearing the end with him. Hopefully, he realizes that. But anyway, that's a conversation.
Oh, he does. I think he totally understands that, and I've heard people say he'd rather retire than get traded. So it's not like you're going to get anything from him, because I think he'll just retire if you try to trade him, which is totally awesome with me. I mean, honestly, I wish there was kind of more people kind of just loyal to the city.
Yeah, agreed. No, for sure. So wide receivers in a good place. I think you saw some nice things. I think I saw more motion, obviously, compared to years past. It just looked, my overall impression of the offense, more modern. Like, I mean, that sounds silly, but I just feel like we've been watching the same plays over and over again, despite having multiple regimes come in. And there were some nuances. I think Shane was able to take a step in the right direction. There was still so much held back, so much meat left on the bone, so many missed opportunities, and still so many of the same, offensive frustrations that we've seen in the years past. Despite the improvement, it still didn't look quite like a modern offense. It looked different, but not modern. This was some of the things that you saw, opportunity not having, for example, a running back draw play on like 3rd and 13 was just so refreshing to know that they actually will have a play call to go for it. Grubb is aggressive, and we're not just going to give up plays like that. We're going to fight. And I think that the plays that they set up to get those opportunities, they were able to convert on 3rd down more than I've seen.
Well, yeah, and I watched, just about every snap for the Washington Huskies last year. So it's fun just thinking, watching the first game. Like I said, there's so much more left on the table. And I know it's a different game in the NFL, but just as far as the movement, as far as kind of confusing the defense, as far as, don't be surprised if there's a few snaps when it's just Kenneth Walker in the backfield and we send DK on a jet sweep, just like the Huskies did with Dylan Johnson and Rome Odunze. He gets the ball to the best player on the field. Last year it was Odunze. This year it'll be DK. I'm sure he's going to have he's always been good. I think he's going to turn great within the next year or two.
I agree. Yeah, I think between the new offense, the effort in this new offense to really utilize him in creative ways, and the kind of decline of Tyler Lockett also, that he will be a more featured guy. I think he was always a 1B, and I think he'll always be able to be now a 1A. It was just a 1 altogether, like a clearly defined, he's the guy. And I'm not sure that there's been a season where we can truly say he's the number 1 and no one else is competing for that. I think JSN people expect to take an improvement to be the 2. But I think everyone sees Metcalf as a clear number 1, and that's exciting, especially from everything I've heard coming out of training camp.
Well, and like I said, it's not just as a pure receiver. It's as an athlete on the field. We don't need 100 catches, but 80 touches would be great.
Right.
They don't all have to be catches. He can do a little bit of Debo Samuel, and I think he's a better athlete than Debo Samuel. So, and we've been saying that for the last 3 years since we saw Debo Samuel do it. We go, oh, we need to use DK like that. Just nobody has.
Yep.
So
that's exciting. Wide receiver room, good. I think this offense is everything that you thought it would be. Now the tight ends.
I was gonna bring that up. Weird group. Easy one. I think you really saw who 1, 2, and 3 were in the preseason game. Who they thought 1, 2, and 3 were, and it's obviously Fant, Brown, and then Russell kind of caught me off guard. I didn't even know he was on the team last year, to be completely honest, until I looked it up.
I did. Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I heard that name, but I just can't, it doesn't ring a bell.
In the end, I think, or something like that. He came on in the end. I remember that.
And then I think Mabry's 4, and then I don't know if Barner makes the team. Yeah.
I think he's 4.
I think he's 4. The way that I feel like they featured him way before they did Barner.
Yeah, but in the reality, there's no way Mabry's making it over Barner.
I don't think so.
I think that you can't just cut Barner. They just drafted the guy. John's not doing that. So he's making the roster.
If he's not meshing well, they might.
I don't think
could.
So. Because this is under this regime. And now if he was drafted last year, I think I'd agree with you because, new regime and all. But this regime quite literally just drafted this guy. Mike McDonald is from Michigan, and so is he. I'm not seeing them cut bait on him after one poor, offseason his rookie year. I don't think that they.
No, I think he'd be a decent tight end. I really did when they even drafted him. Just seeing where he was in the rotation was more of a cause for concern for me than what I've seen from him.
I think he needs the snaps. So I agree with in the sense of he's playing super late. He needs to play as much as he can get it, to be frank. Mm-hmm. I think if it wasn't for politics, he probably would be cut. But I also think it's right to just say it's this guy's first rookie, you know what I mean? Training camp. He's doing everything for the first time. Tight end is sort of it's a unique position, if you will, in terms of combination between blocking and receiving. And while he's not the most fluid guy, I think they probably see him as a Pharaoh Brown replacement next year with a year of improvement. I think he could probably easily fill that role. So I'm not sure they ever had super high expectations for him anyway. Mm-hmm. I think they keep him around just because I'm not sure anybody should cut bait. You have to stink up the place, really, to be cut if you're a 4th round draft pick in your first training camp.
I don't know. We've seen them do it with Darbo. They cut Darbo pretty early, 7 years ago. And he was a Michigan guy. I realized that, nobody was from Michigan on the staff. But as soon as I just noticed that he was basically the 4th string tight end that game, maybe 5th. I was like, oh shit, here comes Amara Darbo 2.0, a 3rd round pick, gonna get cut in his rookie year. Anyways, I was a little bit surprised. Well, I am surprised because Westover's not going to make the team. I'm sure we saw that. I mean, he was below Barner. And that really surprised me because he was such kind of a catalyst for the Huskies offense last year. I thought that he was going to sneak onto the roster because he knew the offense so well. Obviously, that isn't happening. So don't be surprised if he doesn't make the team. I thought he was going to be one of those preseason heroes just because he knew the offense so well already, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they've had to make some adjustments to it, and I think they've got some more athletic guys to build around, frankly. I think he's a good practice squad guy to have around, though, for sure. I think
for sure.
Him. So I think probably if they're picking a practice squad person, my guess is they would make a Westover over Mabry. I mean, I like the upside there. I kind of prefer them to do that. At least you know what you have in Mabry, and I don't think anybody else is picking him up. I mean, maybe for their
Maybe
practice squad.
maybe like a really needy team. I mean, we gotta
Yeah.
wait. Obviously, there's gonna be injuries throughout the year, so we can't
Yeah.
just you know.
I like
Let's
Westover though to stash.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you can stash Westover more than you can stash Mabry because Mabry's played in the NFL before. So I don't know.
Maybe. I just feel like he's so limited.
Yeah,
Not,
he's never been anything special to me, but obviously somebody likes him. So you know what I mean?
I don't see it, but yeah, whatever. But I don't think the tight end room. I think this tight end room needs Noah Fant to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I think they are planning on building around him. I think that's wise because I think I'm a little higher on Noah Fant than most of the Seahawks fan base. I think when given opportunities, I think he performed very well. I mean, he averaged like 12.5 or something yards per like target. So the guy can make plays. He just wasn't given any opportunities, I feel like, in this offense. I like having him be the clear number one, similar to DK being the clear number one. But I would have liked just a little bit more depth. And I'm not sure Farrell Brown is what I'm not sure he'll be what they're hoping he'll be.
He's a blocker.
They're significant.
He's a blocker. I think that's
really big drop off.
That's why he's here, though. It's not like they're trying to have a big playmaker. I think he's just here for his blocking ability.
And that's kind of what Russell's role. I think Russell would probably be better at the Noah Fant role than anyone else, I think, in that tight end room. But I don't know if they can really afford to keep 4 tight ends on this roster. So that's going to be a tough battle for sure.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a great way, but like it'll be a tough battle.
Well, let's get to the defense. I thought the special teams was just about what you expected, except a missed PAT, but let him get him out of his system now. We've seen Jason Myers be a pretty good kicker. Let him get her that. Man. What?
It's an even year, man. He better have it together.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you saying something about that a while ago. Anyways, yeah, I thought the defense, like we said before, just as a unit, performed great. The defensive line, for one, which is crazy because I was super nervous coming into this year, even though with a couple big additions with Hankins and Murphy. And let's just get right to it. I think Murphy might be a very good defensive tackle in the NFL, just from what we've seen.
I like the guy. I really do. Now, I think the Aaron Donald comps are going too far. But I think if he can stay healthy and if he can figure out how to finish his tackles, which is important.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a big thing. I guess he even said going into the season he needed to work on. There was no excuse for letting that sack go, but thank God it happened in a preseason game and not the regular season, right? So
he's got short arms. I think that'll continue to be, if there's anything that's going to hold him back, I think it's going to be that. Because he's got everything else. He really can be special. His first step explosiveness is just different. It just stands out. His ability to take on the double. Did they triple team him?
It was a double team, but a guy came in late. Yeah, it was a double team, but still, yeah, the fact that play, he was double teamed and he pushed the pocket out to where, and let's not kid ourselves, Easton Stick isn't a starting quarterback, but he's a backup quarterback in the NFL, and he played last season, and he played, below average, but
he played.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's played NFL football before, and for him to push the pocket by himself, basically, to roll out to the left and then Mafe getting his hands up, which he's really good at doing, that made me really excited for this season.
I think what's going to carry over with him, even if he doesn't end up being the productive stat guy, I think his impact is going to be felt because he seems like a multiplier. He seems like a guy who makes everyone else better. Even if he can't figure out the whole wrap it up issue, I think he can set up the rest of the defense where they can get the sack, right? In the worst case scenario that he doesn't improve that area of his game, which I think he can. I mean, he's obviously a rookie. I still just see his ability to improve the whole defense, to push, like you said, to get pushed, to be a disruptor, consistency. I'm almost like a Jadeveon Clowney effect, where for in his prime, he was the guy who would just disrupt stuff. I mean, he wouldn't get the stats himself, but he would absolutely impact the rest of the team, the rest of the front seven, and make them better because of what he was able to do on his own.
Well, what I really enjoy about this is he's doing it from the interior.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You say Clowney, yeah, they paid a lot of attention to Clowney, but the fact that he's pushing around centers and guards like this, he's in the interior. He's, you know what, a quarterback can step up in the pocket, and they can't step up when a guy's, right at their face.
In their lap.
I think we were all a little kind of upset when Witherspoon's awesome. But when they passed on Carter last year, it was still in the back of my head. I was like, dang, I think this guy's going to be really good. And the Seahawks have never had an interior pass rusher. I mean, honestly, or just an interior, really just all around good ball player in general since Mebane, probably.
Yeah.
So, just the fact that it seems like they got one. I mean, I couldn't have asked for much of a better start from the first preseason game from this guy.
For sure. And then you're hoping he's only going to get better. And I know. I did say no Aaron Donald comp. I don't think he's Aaron Donald. I think it's a little bit much to compare him today. But out of curiosity, I did go back and just see what Aaron Donald was graded on PFF for his preseason. And it wasn't that big of a difference. He graded out at a 70 in his first preseason. And Byron Murphy graded out as a 67.3. And he's only played one game. I think he's going to play at least one more game.
Oh, I think he'll play two more.
I know. I know he's not Aaron Donald. He's not going to be. But I was just curious. You know what I'm saying? Like, did Aaron Donald come out of the gate? Was he just, amazing in his preseason debut? Nah, I think he was pretty good. But,
And he could very well be like Aaron Donald. But let's not put it there. Yeah, I think it was Draymond. No, it was
Hankins. John Hankins, who said defensive player of the
Ndamukong Suh. He can, and that's Hank. Somebody said in an interview, "What does Byron Murphy remind you of?" And one of the guys said Ndamukong Suh, which is a pretty damn good. I mean, he's not Aaron Donald, but look at what Ndamukong Suh's done.
Right.
In his career, not stomping on people's arms or hands or anything, but it's like everybody says, I've never seen bigger legs on somebody, and he uses them as we've seen even in the first preseason game. So
yeah, his ability to anchor down and just get under dudes' pads with pure power is fun to watch. You just love seeing some push on the interior and knowing that he's not your starter. Because you got Leonard Williams and you got John Hankins, you got a true, we talked about for some time that you need a rotation on the edge. I think a rotation on the interior is even more powerful for your, the exact reason you said. It's harder for quarterbacks to get comfortable with you have an interior pass rush. And if you've got guys coming in fresh in waves, I think that almost multiplies the impact that you would have having a rotation of edges.
Well, yeah, and let's be honest, like a starting defensive tackle or defensive end, whatever they call him, he plays in the nose and he plays outside, is almost like one of the most meaningless things in the depth chart because of how much those guys rotate, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, he's going to play with different groups, and maybe he's not there on the first drive, but he'll be there the second, third, and fourth. Eventually, he'll be out there on the first drive every game, but to just be able to not have the whole thing based off of him, even though every snap they took, your eyes were just focused on him. I don't know if you felt the same way, but as soon as you notice he was out there, you're like, okay, what's he gonna do? And he didn't disappoint. So
no, not at all. Speaking of not disappointing, Derek Hall also really great preseason, not debut, but performance. And you needed to see that from Derek Hall, who really, was a definition of disappointment last season. Just non-existent. Yeah, you didn't get anything from him. Not a flash or anything. So he had a lot to prove going in, and from all reports, he's had a great training camp, and that translated into the preseason game. And you like to see that because you have these training camp warriors, right? Where everything, I mean, Daryl Taylor, right, was like training camp warrior, and then he gets out in the preseason and he gets absolutely ran. You want to see this. Is it the regular season? No, but I think it's a step in a positive direction. I think you saw some things translate. His ability to power, he seems better on his counters. I think he's still got a ways to go, but at least he seems to have a couple of counters he can go to. And just kind of being around the ball. I think this scheme fits his style of play much better than whatever in the heck they were running last year.
Yeah, it's like they were. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to even talk about last year. Maroon Glass asked any differences between Carroll and McDonald. I think, like we said at the very beginning of the show, it's just basically the all-around attitude for one, and the fact that, like you said, it comes with that attitude. Everybody's swarming the ball, which is you haven't seen in 5 years. I mean, probably 6 or 7 years, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think he brings it's different and a completely different strategy, but the intensity of the LOB was felt. I think in that one preseason game, obviously it's very different. It comes from a different place, comes from literally a different. I mean, that was more secondary play than anything, and complemented by your edges. But this is kind of the inverse of that. But just the physicality. I think that's going to be a big factor in Mike McDonald defense. I've heard players say they want to be the team nobody wants to play. I think that's nice, man. I think that's refreshing. And I think even though there's, like we said earlier, they get it around different ways. They do it different ways. But I think the core values are actually the same. I actually don't think the result is that different when you're talking about Prime Carroll. At least I just think Carroll lost his edge, his ability to produce that, even though that's what he wanted.
Oh, for sure. I think the message gets, we see it with the greatest, and I don't care what you say. I think that Bill Belichick is the greatest NFL coach of all time. But you see it when they lose the locker room. It's not pretty, So it happens to everybody. I mean, it happened to Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Look at Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Can we admit that Andy Reid is probably the best active NFL coach at least gets the praise for being it. If he lost a locker room, anybody can lose a locker room,
Agreed.
If there are fans out there in Philadelphia holding the Fire Reid banners, it can happen to anybody.
100%. That made me just I know we were going down doing a player breakdown, but I just want to emphasize how important the third down thing was on both sides of the ball. That's been such a main issue for years. I don't even know how many years, seriously. Because even when it wasn't like a thorn in your side issue, it was still a problem. It just wasn't like the worst in the league. And we basically spent the past couple of years being worst of the league on third down on both sides of the ball. But the defense got off the field 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And the offense was able to extend drives. And so that time of possession was dominant. I think that's really what made it a dominant performance. What was the time of possession?
I'm on the it's 40-20. I was on the box score what we were just talking about, 40-20.
Yep. So it was absolutely dumb. I think that's really what made it feel dominant. It's just that the Chargers couldn't even get going. They weren't even allowed to get comfortable on either side of the ball. I think they did some things to challenge you, but something else that was really cool was that was their starting offensive line.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, it's not like they were just a bunch of slapdicks out there.
Yep.
That was their entire starting offensive line. And, Joe Alt, wasn't he the first offensive lineman taken this year?
Yep. Derek Hall put him in a blender. That was nice.
And I think, Nwosu was out there for 6 plays, and a lot of guys were out there for 6 plays. I don't remember the exact exactly who they were. I think Leonard Williams, Hankins.
Everyone but Jerome Baker. Everyone but Jerome Baker. I think,
No,
actually.
Dodson, because I think Baker's the one that's hurt.
Yeah, I mean everyone was on the field but Jerome Baker.
Oh no, he was hurt, but I think for 6 plays, that's all we saw of all the starters was 6 plays.
Yeah, they played everybody for 2 series basically, which since they had 2 3 and outs, it's pretty much all you got. I think there was someone else who was hurt. Did Jenkins didn't play? Did he? Jenkins was hurt. Rashawn Jenkins.
Oh, Rashawn? I thought
he was hurt. I don't think he played.
You know what's weird is I couldn't find an injury report because Darrell Taylor didn't play either. I noticed he was on the sideline with his jersey.
He's hurt.
I was like, he is? So I couldn't find the injury report online. So he is hurt.
Do they do official injury reports for preseason? I don't think they do official preseason.
They had a page for it, but I was just I couldn't find anything.
I do know Taylor's hurt because he hadn't been practicing very much lately.
Oh, okay.
Baker's same thing. That's why Tyrese Knight got the start. And I want to say Jenkins did not play either, but really everyone else pretty much played. Like you saw the starting defense essentially.
Well, and Tyrese Knight, you could tell he was green. Like it was definitely his first game, but he didn't look terrible. He did not look bad. He just, like I said at the very beginning of the show, just a couple, miscues. But boy, I'm pretty sure he had a tackle for loss. If not, it was right at the line of scrimmage. I thought he looked decent. The one, and I really don't like him, but I can't ignore the fact that he played really good, was John Radigan. Yeah. I thought I don't like him as a starting linebacker. We saw what happened when he was a starting linebacker. But, to show out in the preseason, I thought he looked pretty damn good. But, yeah.
He had a very good game. I'm not Tyrese Knight. I'm pretty down on Tyrese Knight. I hated his film. There are not many players I hate their college film. I hated Knight's college film. So if Mike McDonald can turn that guy into even a rotation level guy, I don't like linebackers who don't have good linebacker instincts. Just call it fundamentals. Like that frustrates me. Like he's just guessing on so many of it, and that's really what happened. When he had the whip, he just guessed wrong. He's still kind of guessing out there. It's almost like a wide receiver who can't catch, right? It's like fundamentally, like that's kind of your job is to have good instincts. So linebackers who don't have good instincts are like wide receivers who can't catch, and I just don't have the tolerance for them. But like I said, if Mike McDonald can turn that guy into a guy, then he will have officially run me over as a linebacker guru. I can't crown him yet because I'm just trying to figure out who he groomed to get this title. That's why everybody's like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a linebacker guru, and I'm like, okay, tell me what linebackers he's like. I mean, he got Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith was like amazing before he got to Baltimore.
It was Patrick Queen. It was Patrick Queen because Patrick Queen had a lot of struggles. I guess this is just coming from the people in Baltimore. I guess Queen had a lot of struggles before Mike McDonald got there, and then look how much he got paid from Pittsburgh. So I think
I beg to differ because he struggled when he was under Mike McDonald because that's why they got Roquan Smith. Right? I feel like people will just rewrite history like he wasn't struggling mightily because he was struggling mightily. And then they moved him to a different position at linebacker, and that's where his true position was. He wasn't a Mike, he was a Will. And so when they moved him to Will, he was much better. I'm not sure that's linebacker guru level to me. I just feel like people
I'm not crowning him as long as the defense can go out there and do their job and get the offense off the field. That's all I really care about, to be completely honest.
That's fair. Because Tyrese Knight he did look much better than I expected. You never root against a guy for sure, but I'll probably be the slowest to turn on him. I want him to play without guessing. If he can start playing without guessing, that will be amazing. Anyway, the linebacker depth is not as bad in the spot. And to me, I think that has a lot to do with Mike McDonald being able to cover up his players' weaknesses, frankly.
Which is what Pete used to do a good job at, but then it started to fade. I think Pete did that for a long time with the defense.
Yeah, I guess from a DB perspective, I'm not sure.
Exactly. The defensive backs,
Yeah.
he found the roles for his guys. I mean, Earl's
Right.
not a get in the box safety type of guy. Cam's not going to run out there and play cover 2
Yeah,
or cover 1. But anyways.
That's a good point. So yeah, that's encouraging. And if nothing else, I think that probably is my upside to that linebacker room, because I do think that's the weakest point on the defense right now. But
I'm kind of excited to see Baker, because I haven't really watched much of him in Miami. But I don't know. There's something, just kind of the mystery. I haven't even seeked out a lot of film from him in Miami. Just kind of the mystery. I just kind of want to see how he does. He definitely looks the part. He looks like a badass out there. So
I think he's the aggressor for sure. Though I did like what I saw from Tyrell Dotson. I think there can be a really good tandem, though. Apparently, he's a guy who's always going to be on the injury report. So
Baker,
yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think that's why they were probably willing to let him walk, is because he's always like injured, which that tracks. So far,
we need to get Dotson to change his number, though. After what I've seen from Devin Bush last year, somebody wearing 0. For one, that's Blitz's number. They need to retire that in general. That's the mascot wears 0.
It's fair.
And for 2, Devin Bush sucked ass. Let's be honest, he was not good. So
I thought he started off looking fine. I really did, and I think they just the whole scheme went to hell, and so did his performance. So yeah, it was it got bad though. Yeah.
Let's get, I think the outside depth is decent. Like you said, you got Hall, Nwosu. I know you hate Darrell Taylor, but I think maybe they see something in him. Unlike you, they see something in him that they didn't see in Jamal Adams. And I wanted to tease you about that, because I don't think we've talked since Jamal got cut and they re-signed Taylor. I was like,
I'll say that they were never going to keep Jamal Adams over Darrell Taylor because of the pay. Like the pay. I think if their contracts were equal, they'd probably both be gone. I'll be honest with you.
But, if they just met in the middle, they both would definitely be gone. But I think
it's a money thing.
You know my feelings about Jamal Adams.
Taylor has some. I think he's the most interesting player in this game, because Mike McDonald is so big on physicality.
Mm-hmm.
So either Darrell Taylor's going to step up, or he's not going to play. And I don't know which way it's going to go. He's got great bend. I mean, his athleticism, it speaks for itself. Like, it's not deniable. It's the consistency. And Mike McDonald seems to care more about that than upside.
Mm-hmm.
He cares about fundamentals. He cares about, point of attack. Darrell Taylor has been injured a lot of training camp, so I don't really know where he fits in this pecking order. Truly, you don't know, because he hasn't played in most of these games.
It is kind of funny, because we can definitely now say for sure that Darrell Taylor is a John Schneider guy and not a Pete Carroll guy.
Oh, yeah.
When certain players got, let go and certain players came back, you're like, okay, now it's kind of time to see who saw what in who, basically.
Yeah.
So, DT was obviously a John Schneider guy.
Well, I'll say this too. I'm not sure they would have cut him even if he was a P guy, because
they re-signed him.
They didn't have a ton. Yeah, they re-signed him for less, right? Like, he took a pay cut.
Either way, it wasn't much. Nothing. It's not a big contract.
I mean, I feel like you take a flyer on that, even if he was a P guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say him on the roster is indicative of which side he was on. I think the contract, if they try to re-sign him, then that speaks to it. But I think you take a flyer on him anyway, because I'm not sure that you feel comfortable. And he's a really good depth piece, right? So, like, without him, that edge rotation looks way worse. So I'm not sure why you cut him just for the sake of cutting him anyway, unless he absolutely flames out in camp, which he has not been able to do one way or the other, simply because, like I said, the guy hadn't played. I don't know how I feel
And
about
that's
that.
what I was kind of thinking about. Obviously there's Mafe and Wosu, Taylor,
Hall,
Hall, and I can't think of anybody behind him.
Draymond Jones is thrown in the mix. He's also been hurt.
Kind of though, because he kind of plays inside and
Out, right? And
yeah.
that's really it. So that's why I'm like, I'm not really sure. I don't think you're cutting Daryl Taylor anyway, even if
No, and I think the top end with Nwosu and Mafe is really scary. But once those two go out, it's kind of like you said, maybe Derek Hall will get it, maybe Daryl Taylor will get it, but I feel like the top order really outweighs the bottom.
I'm not sure. I'm a little worried that we might get a regression from Chenna and from Mafe. And again, it's just based off training camp reports. But when Chenna first hit the scene, I mean, he sort of was the talk of camp. And you just haven't had that. Even when he played in the preseason game, it was kind of like you didn't really notice him there.
6 snaps, though.
Yeah, I know. That's true. But everybody was looking closely at those 6 snaps. Well, I don't know. I think he's elite at his run game, his run defense. Hopefully we got enough pass rush, but I think the interior will like make up for any lacking of the edge. So I'm not worried about it from a performance perspective, but I do think I'm not sure that tandem is. I said all that. I disagree a little bit.
The fact that Clowney had double-digit sacks last year from the edge, and it was all because of the Ravens. It obviously has to get around some blockers, but the interior took up most of that. The fact that Justin Houston was out there racking up sacks, and he's 70 years old. So I mean, Kyle Van Noy was out there getting sacks for the Ravens. Don't be surprised if the Seahawks sign some weird people, like that during but he goes, oh, I see something in this guy. Let's try to bring him in. So
that's true. That's true.
Lastly, I guess, let's get to the secondary. I'm excited about the secondary. I think especially the way that Witherspoon really showed his attitude during the game, being the biggest cheerleader on the sidelines. I thought that showed a lot.
Yeah, I think he's a spirit animal, if you will, of the Seahawks. He encapsulates, I think, a lot of what McDonald wants. He's that guy, man. Shout out Artie Burns. He's been my guy from the beginning. I just want to say, I believed in you, Artie, from the beginning. He seems to be poised to make this roster when everybody wrote him off. He ain't right back.
I know. I'm pretty sure he's been off the roster and came back too.
Yeah,
he won't go away.
No, he's like a roach. But anyway, I think he's found his niche. I think in this defense, I like having a backup to Spoon so that if something does happen with Spoon like that, like when Spoon went down last year, the defense, it was the beginning of the end, essentially. Well, no, because he went down twice, right? He was slow to come in, and then
Sorry.
That's me, actually. My bad.
No, I know. I'm apologizing for running so late.
Yeah. No, we're good. So he was slow to come in, but then when he missed that midweek, right? I think that's really it got really bad. They didn't have anyone who could play that role, and having someone, I think it speaks the fact that they want a backup Witherspoon, pretty much chess piece, slot guy, speaks to the importance of that in this defense.
I don't know if you're going to see Witherspoon played the same way this year.
What do you mean?
I think he might. I think he might have. I don't know. Maybe we'll see him a lot in the slot. Obviously, McDonald likes to move people around, anyways. But I'd like to kind of see Trey Brown in the slot a little bit, and you don't like that, okay?
No, it was really bad. Did you forget amnesia? It was so bad. No,
but he's got the build for a slot guy.
He doesn't have the foot quickness. He doesn't have the quickness. It was as bad as Kobe Bryant in the slot. It was pretty bad.
All right. Well, anyways, I don't know.
The short area quickness is really important. I think that's a really key element. You just don't like Artie Burns. You're Artie Burns hater.
No, I've never been a. Speaking of you being, I think you're a hater on this guy. Is Michael Jackson? Was he hurt, or did he play?
I like Michael Jackson.
No, did he play? Because I don't remember seeing him out there.
I don't think he played. No, he was hurt. He was hurt. Yeah,
Sweet.
I heard reports he was hurt.
Not sweet, but just I was like, I didn't see him.
No, I like Mike Jack, actually. I do. I think I've always I love him, but I think he's probably one of the best level backups you can have for sure. Like, I don't want him starting on my team.
Last year, I really liked it with Brown on the outside, like that Bengals game, for example. When you had Trey Brown, you had Mullen, who I think is going to take a big leap back forward again,
Yes.
a big leap back to where he was, basically.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a lot more physical this year. And he even said in his interviews, he's like, yeah, I know. I need to step it up. I was not physical like I should have been. I liked that a lot if we just played nickel all the time and had Brown, Woolen, and Witherspoon there. And I'm excited to see Rayshon Jenkins and Julian Love play together too.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I actually like K'Von Wallace. I
was going to bring that up. He's the reason that Kobe had that interception. I don't know if he got a hand on the ball or not. If he didn't, he was definitely contesting.
He tipped it, and then Bryant caught it. So I think that safety spot is, I was really worried about it at first, but I think they're really in good hands, especially compared to last year, frankly. I also think that, I kind of want to go back to talk to Spoon. To your point, I think that you'll see him kind of 50-50. He's been for the first half of training camp in the slot, and then the second half on the outside. I think they'll sort of pick and choose their spots to use them. But I agree, nickel is going to be super fun. Like, they seem to be intentional on disguising blitzes, and then that simulated pressure thing concept that is so cool, man. I find that just fascinating to be honest. A little bit of a nerd, but I think the safeties aren't going to have to be elite. I think if you get an elite play up front, then that's what matters more.
Well, there's not one guy making 18 million and the other making 14 million back there. I mean, I think that's a big reason why it was so frustrating is
the cost.
Yeah, pay versus play. It's
and I will say, up until last year, I think Quandre sort of earned the ball hawk thing. There were years where like literally no one else had interceptions but Quandre Diggs.
No, I was a big fan of Quandre, but I see why they moved on. Aging. He wasn't quite I thought he was still decent last year at playing free safety.
Right.
Like, he wasn't the worst thing in the world, but boy,
he missed a lot of tackles. But if your safety is making a bunch of tackles, then like you got bigger problems. Frankly.
Yeah, well,
and that's what's true.
I mean, let's be honest. Number 33 made the whole defense look worse, and he was your highest paid defensive player on the team.
He did, but I think I still feel like he started off fine, but then he absolutely fell off a cliff. Maybe starting that Cowboys game. It's probably the beginning of the year. I think he came on the first few games. He looked fine. He looked pretty good, actually. And then, I don't know if his leg gave out, whatever the issue was, but he was, unplayable, dare I say. Essentially, tackle. If Jamal Adams can't tackle, then what do you do? I'll be frank about that. That's your thing, guy. Like, that's your hard downhill dude. You can't tackle.
Well, you follow me on Twitter, which not many people do. You're one of the people that follow me, and I cannot stand the fucking people that are like, "Oh, put Jamal at linebacker. He'll be great." And I'm like, "Do you not understand? He can't tackle."
Yeah.
And I think it had to do with his shoulders. I think his shoulders started being messed up. I think his first year here, or maybe he came here with his shoulders. I think his shoulders are so messed up that he can't tackle like he used to. Because he was a sound tackler when he first came here.
Oh, for sure. That's why I'm like, if Jamal Adams can't tackle, then what does he give you? I mean, that's your thing. Your thing is you're not getting coverage, but like you're a downhill can tackle guy. But like, I mean, the hard hit on Madden, like that was him. He had like a 99 hard hit or whatever. Like, if you're not tackling, dude, then you should just get out the field, frankly.
Well, and it's like he forgets to wrap up. It's like he goes for a big hit.
He doesn't use his arms. He's just a hit stick guy.
Which doesn't make sense. I'd rather have a guy be a secure tackler and not make a big hit, obviously, than the guy that's just shoulder tackling every play. But
Yeah.
anyways, off Jamal. Do you have like 5 more minutes? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm good. We're good.
Okay. We're going to play him this weekend. We're going to play him and Quandre.
Great segue.
Which is insane because
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know. I think you said you started being a fan like 2010 of the Seahawks, right? So
Yeah.
2008, the Seahawks went 4-12. All right. The Lions signed like 5 of our players the next season in 2009. And that's what is reminding me with the Titans. It's like they want our safeties, which was what everybody was bitching about last season. I don't know what they think they're going to do. I'm going to be honest. I forgot who their head coach is right now. So,
Callaway, Brian. Is it Brian Callaway or Brian Callaway's son?
I don't know where he's from.
Offensive line coach of the Bengals. Offensive line coach. I want to say he's the offensive coordinator for the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of got an AARP discount thing going because aren't there
for sure
like Calvin Ridley and like DeAndre Hopkins? Is that them? Like, am I thinking of the right team?
I think Hopkins. Yeah, I think you're right with Ridley too, but I don't know who saw Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs play together last year and was like, you know what? That's what I want. Maybe they turned the clock back to 2020 and they were like, oh shit, that'd be pretty cool.
I gotta be honest. Jamal getting signed before Quandre is absolutely wild to me. I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't think Adams would ever play again, to be frank. And so for him to get hired first, I think he just wanted to bring his buddy, and they had a need. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's not. Yeah, we're not kidding. So it's Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. They got Tony Pollard as their number 1 running back.
Oh yeah, they have Pollard.
Yeah, they Yeah, they got a Jamal Adams, Harold Landry III. Quandre Diggs is 2nd string currently right now.
He'll be a starter.
They got him under strong safety. Sorry,
no, it's fine.
They got him. Quandre Diggs at strong safety is laughable.
Yeah, he's not going to play there. He's going to play free safety. He'll be the starter by week 1. I just.
Looking at how old is that guy?
Who?
He's actually not that old. Sebastian Joseph Day.
Oh,
but they've just got a lot of mid, and whatever is not mid is old.
Which is crazy because they were damn good like 3 years ago. They were really good 3 years ago.
Yeah, they were. Downhill from there. I don't know, but I'm excited. I'm just excited to have joint practices.
Me too. So as a Seahawks fan, I've literally never seen a joint practice. So I don't even think, Chuck Knox never did joint practices. So it's been, I don't think we've ever had a joint practice, literally. I think this will be, I want to see DK just, swing a helmet at Jamal.
People keep saying they're against it because they don't want some of the guys trying to scrap and claw and make the roster, hurting some of the key players. But from what I understand, you play starters versus starters. It goes on, and that's kind of what Mike McDonald implied in his press conference today, that like your starters are going to play versus their starters. And so I don't think that's nearly as big of an issue as people like. It's an overhyped complaint of joint practice.
Well, look how many other teams did it.
Everyone else, literally everyone else does joint practices, and I don't understand. It's such an important tool, I think, for your starters because they don't really play in the preseason, and you don't want to give away important scheme and things like game plan type details that you can do in joint practices. I think it's probably one of the best tools you can use. I think joint practices are more important than preseason. Seriously.
Well, yeah, and you're playing against a team in the AFC South, right? It's not. I mean, it's not like. What the fuck are they gonna do? It's not like they're like, oh man.
I want to see how they can hold up against Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, that's a good one because I do like Justin Simmons. I think he's like one of the only players I like. that defensive tackle, right?
Yep.
Or defensive end.
Defensive tackle. Yeah. He can play both. He's that versatile guy that can inside out, but he's pretty much an interior guy. But
No,
yeah,
he's the only guy since the Titans were really good that I really recognize on their roster
pretty
from
much.
3 years ago. So
As someone who lives in Tennessee, I have no interest in rooting for the Titans, and I never have. So that pretty much about tells you how much the culture there is within the Titans organization. Like it's
are you going?
non-existent. I know I've got the baby, and if I didn't have the baby, I assure you I would be there. But
What's the husband
I got a
doing?
kid now, so
What's the husband doing?
working. It's in the middle of the week, dude.
What?
I
No, it's
want
on
to do.
Saturday.
Oh yeah, I meant the joint practices. That's really what I
No.
care more about.
Are you
Nobody's
going
playing
to the
anyway.
game?
Nobody's playing anyway.
Are you going to the game? No.
No,
You should.
no, I actually have to work.
Get in
I
the
actually have
door
to
for
work
$8. Get in the door for $8.
I know, but man, that drive, like there's no way. It's so much harder doing things with like a newborn because like no one wants to watch the shit. I mean, she hasn't even been in a car. She can't. We did a hour trip somewhere, like up the road, and she was just like dying at like 45 minutes, just crying. There's no way I could bring her with me, and there's no way I would have anybody to watch her overnight.
How old is she now?
5 months. She's too young. She'd be 5 months Wednesday, actually. Like she's not even 5 months yet. So
yeah, my sister has a 7-month-old, so I totally get it. My wife watches the boys for my sister Monday through Friday, so I kind of get what it's like dealing with a infant, and I mean, it sucks too because there's a toddler who's 2.5, and me and him are super tight, and then there's a little one. It's like he gets left out. Because I'm like, oh, let me take Bradley to the preseason game. They're like, okay, what are you gonna do with Grady, the little one? And I'm like, nothing. You can't do anything with him.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I sure hated it. Now typically when they play the Seahawks, I try to go to those games, but yeah, it just
last year was on Christmas Eve.
Last year was on Christmas. This year now I have a kid, so everything's much harder. I don't know. We'll see, man. But not this year, sadly. It's the only good thing about like being here. It's like I can like see those for whatever reasons the Seahawks and the Titans kind of play each other pretty often.
Every 4 years.
But these teams it seems like it's more than that.
Regular season is every 4 years, right? Because we play the AFC South every 4 years.
But it just seems like I know I've been there. I feel like twice. I've been like 2 games.
I've seen them in the preseason. I've seen the Titans a bunch in the preseason for some reason.
Yeah, maybe it's the preseason because I just feel like I've gone to see the Seahawks a couple of times. I do know one of them was preseason though, so that's probably
because Matt Hasselbeck came back in 2012, the first preseason game here, and then I'm pretty sure Bishop Sankey played against the Seahawks here in the preseason. I mean, I've seen the Titans a few times.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, but anyway, so excited about that. Joint practice happening. Finally, super excited to see whatever videos. I don't care if they fight. Do you care if they fight?
What?
I was asking, do you care if they fight?
I'm happy they did. I want to see. I said this last week in part of my French, but I want teams that give a shit. The Legion of Boom days with the Seahawks, they were fighting each other all the time. Pete Carroll is getting fined all the time for having too hard of practices.
Yep.
I want a team that gives a shit. And people are going, oh, DK off the rails again. Well, nobody's talking about Trey Brown ripping Bobo's helmet off and punching him in the face.
Yeah.
I was on a 49ers show on Wednesday, and there was this one person who was like, I don't agree with DK Metcalf ripping a player's helmet off. And I'm like, how about Trey Brown? He did it as a guy that did it like literally the play before to his offensive guy.
Yeah, so, and I heard that Metcalf actually like put his hands up and tried to like walk away, but like
that's what I heard too.
That. And so DK's not backing down from that. I mean, he tried to walk away.
I couldn't believe it was 5'10", 180 pounds Trey Brown going after DK, which makes me respect Trey Brown a little bit more because he is small. Yep. I kind of like the fact that Derek Hall and Christian Haynes got kicked out for fighting because I like that they care. I don't know if there's a fight that's happening, it should be between the left end and the left guard, or one-on-one D-line, O-line drills. That's when there should be fights happening. So
honestly, it said if you saw this question, it's on here. Wow, about the UDFAs.
I don't really, honest to God, I don't know of any that I really like. I obviously like West over going.
Yeah, we don't have any favorite UDF. I mean, the closest thing would be Brady Russell if he does, but he's experienced at this point. But yeah, there really aren't any. They've really cut a lot of them. To be frank, they aren't playing with these dudes. Like they cut a lot. I heard Carlton Johnson had a good day in camp, but that doesn't exactly move me. Yeah, I don't. I'm kind of happy to not have a bunch of UDFA. I mean, it's a cool story and whatever, but like I'd rather have quality high top depth that like prevents UDFAs from really competing for jobs. That means that we've got some solid spots filled. I prefer that.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, even the last undrafted free agent that I think I'm doing awesome is Baldwin. Other than that, I don't know if I can think of one here.
Bobo.
I said awesome. I mean, he made an impact, kind of, but I mean, like.
Well, Bobo's never going to be awesome because Bobo's not going to be featured like Baldwin was featured. And Baldwin had to sort of work his way up a little bit. I think Bobo is. I kind of think he is awesome. I'll be honest. For his role, like in his role, he's awesome.
Yeah, my wife loves him. She thinks he's cute. So
I can't go that far, but in his role, he is awesome. I respect. He is probably one of the best number 4s you can have. So
yeah, I guess.
I honestly, I heard Brian Nimhauser. He was like he thinks that Bobo might take away from Tyler Lockett snaps. Like he might be a more true 3 than Lockett because of the run blocking.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, because he's the elite run blocker. Like there are opportunities where you might just prefer Bobo in over Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's not going to be that consistent safety blanket that he used to be in terms of his hands. Would you rather just not have Bobo, who actually has some underrated hands and some pretty elite catches himself?
Yeah, we saw probably the best touchdown of the season from Jake Bobo. I mean, imagine if Odell Beckham Jr. caught that pass against the Cardinals. They'd still be replaying it all the time, but it's definitely a name factor. Anyways, I think I got to get out of here. Do you have anything going on this week? Anything fun?
Yeah, I think. Well, Tino and I probably do another episode, preview the upcoming game. If nothing else, I don't know if we'll kind of preview that game, break down the other ones, kind of go over some of the highlights at joint practice. So that'll probably be an end of the weeker more than likely. So you guys can be on the lookout for that. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Just kind of following the training camp along the way, and yeah, go from there.
Yeah, just waiting for the regular season.
Countdown begins. I appreciate you having me on, Joe.
Pardon?
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And guys in the chat, I'm sure you all follow her anyways, but I forgot to put her link in the description. I will go ahead and do that right after the show. But I think it's just Ethos Seahawks on YouTube, right? Correct. Yep. Okay, so just
no. On YouTube, it's Seahawks 360.
Okay, Seahawks 360. I'm gonna go put the link in the description as soon as we get off because I forgot doing that. But thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. All right, go Hawks.
Bye.